3. True fishing horror street ories. They say Stillwater Lake in Alabama is perfect for fishing, but locals won't go near it after sundown. The water's calm is too perfect, too silent, like it's listening. When we drove out that Friday night, the sky was low and red, the air thick enough to taste. Mara had planned the trip. She was the brave one, short red hair, a piercing stare, and a laugh that cut through silence. I tagged along with her, and so did Jordan and Camille, our friends from college. 4 city kids looking for an off-grid weekend. We parked by the shore just as the sun dipped behind the trees. The lake spread before us like black glass. We set up camp and cast our lines. Jordan joked about cursed lakes, but no one laughed. The deeper the night fell, the quieter the world became. No insects, no birds, just water lapping the shore like slow breathing. Then we saw him. Across the lake, a silhouette stood motionless on the opposite bank. The moonlight lit his figure tall, hunched, face hidden in tangled gray beard and long stringy hair. A balding dome gleamed above deep eye sockets locked on us. He didn't move for nearly a minute. Then he smiled. It was wide, too wide, stretching across his jaw like something torn open. Camille whispered, "Who is that?" We all froze. The man lifted a hand and pointed not at the lake, not at the trees, but at Mara. We packed quickly, shaken, and headed back to the tent. But the unease followed us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something outside was dragging slowly along the edge of the tent. Soft steps in the gravel. A low humming like a broken music box. Mara sat up and whispered, "Do you hear that?" I nodded. A thud. Then, a whisper. From outside, "Come back to the water." I tore open the flap, flashlight in hand, and swept the beam through the trees. Nothing. But at the water's edge, footprints trailed from the lake to our tent barefoot, large and wet. We weren't alone. Stillwater didn't want us gone. It wanted us deeper. The old man was never seen entering our camp, but when we left at dawn, a single fish hook was wedged into Mara's sleeping bag, bent, rusted, still wet. He doesn't need bait, just names. And now he knows ours. We didn't talk much on the drive back from Stillwater. Mara sat by the window, arms crossed, eyes never blinking. Camille clutched the rusted hook in a paper towel like it might vanish if we looked away. Jordan kept checking the rearview mirror. I just wanted to forget. But the silence was heavier than fear, like something had followed us. By Monday, Mara was gone. She didn't answer texts or calls. Her apartment was locked, her car still in the lot. Camille and I drove over after sunset. The air felt the same as it had at the Lake Vic, warm, too still. Her windows were dark. No signs of struggle, no mess, no clues. Just a faint damp smell and muddy prints in the hallway. Jordan called the police, but no one took it seriously. Adults vanish all the time, they said. Maybe she needed space, but Camille knew better. She kept saying she felt watched, even in her own room, kept her lights on every night. I didn't sleep at all. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Mara. 30 seconds of static. At the very end, something faint. A splash. Then a whisper, low and broken. "Come back to the water." I dropped my phone. The next morning, Camille was pale, shaking. She said she'd seen him, the man from the lake. Outside her bedroom window, just watching. She lived on the second floor. We decided to return to Stillwater, not to find Mara, but to end whatever this was. We needed to face it. Jordan brought a small lantern and said nothing the whole ride. Camille cried quietly in the back seat. I kept feeling like we were already being led there, like we hadn't really left in the first place. The lake looked different this time. The water was lower, like something had been feeding off it. The air stank of algae and metal. Trees along the shore leaned toward the water unnaturally. We walked to the exact spot we'd camped, but there was no sign we'd ever been there. Only one thing waited for us. A chair, old, wooden, placed right at the edge. On it, a red ribbon tied to a fishing line. The hook dangled just above the water. Attached to the line was Mara's bracelet. No blood, no body, just her name scratched into the wood. Camille screamed, but I couldn't look away. In the reflection on the lake's surface, I saw us. All 4 of us, but only 3 were standing on the shore. The 4th was in the water, smiling. He hasn't left, and he's waiting for someone else. The air grew thick again as the water swirled, casting unnatural shadows on the trees. The lantern flickered once more before going out entirely. The silence that followed was oppressive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Camille collapsed to the ground, her face buried in her hands, the sound of her sobs cutting through the stillness. Jordan just stood there, staring at the lake, his jaw clenched tight. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the water. Mara's bracelet swayed gently on the hook, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a piece of jewelry anymore. It was a message, a warning. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The sound of my own heartbeat filled my ears, drowning out everything else. I wanted to speak, to ask questions, but my throat felt tight. The only thing I could hear was the faint sound of water lapping at the shore, like whispers rising from the depths. Then, without warning, a figure appeared in the reflection of the lake. It was him, the man from the water. I spun around, my breath catching in my chest. But there was nothing behind us but the empty shore, the trees, and the moonlit sky. My eyes darted back to the water. The man wasn't there either. But I knew what I had seen. We had to leave. But as we turned to walk away, I realized the path we had taken to reach the lake was gone. The dry ground had been replaced by shallow water, creeping through the forest like a slow-moving tide. The trees, once standing straight and strong, now leaned toward the water as though they were being drawn into it, their branches, like crooked fingers, reaching for the surface. We couldn't go back the way we came. Jordan grabbed Camille by the arm, pulling her away from the water, but she was frozen, her wide eyes fixed on something unseen. Her voice was barely a whisper when she spoke. "He's still here, watching." I looked around, but there was no sign of anything out of the ordinary. Just the dark forest, the soft ripple of water, and the shadows stretching long across the land. Yet, in my gut, I knew we weren't alone. Someone was out there, moving just beyond the trees. I heard Edwina, low, guttural laugh, echoing from the woods. My blood ran cold. It was him. It was the man from the lake, and he was waiting for us. We had to get out of there, fast. But as we started to move, I glanced back one last time at the water. The surface shimmered strangely, like a dark mirror, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw us reflected, and night only there was something different. One of us wasn't standing on the shore. It was Mara. Her eyes were wide, her mouth open in a silent scream, her hands reaching up toward us from beneath the water. And behind her, standing in the dark depths, the man grinned. His eyes locked on mine. His smile stretched wide, unnaturally wide. I ran, but I knew it was too late. We were already part of this, part of whatever this was. And we weren't getting out, not until he had what he wanted. But I could feel it now. He wasn't just waiting for us. He was waiting for someone else, to take Mara's place. The night seemed to stretch on forever as we stood there, rooted to the shore. Camille's scream echoed in my ears, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the water. The reflection wasn't a trick of the light. It was real. We were standing on the shore, but the 4th figure Mara was, floating just below the surface, her face obscured by strands of wet hair, smiling in the same twisted way he had. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick, suffocating. The water in front of us rippled, and I thought for a moment I saw something move beneath the surface. It wasn't just the breeze. It wasn't just my mind playing tricks. He was here. "You see it too, don't you?" Camille whispered, her voice shaking. I nodded, my throat dry. I wanted to say anything, but the words wouldn't come. The man from the lake, was still there, staring at us through the murky water, his presence suffocating the very air around us. The smile never left his face. His eyes, wide and empty, seemed to follow us even as we stepped back. Jordan stepped forward, his hand gripping the lantern so tight, his knuckles were white. "We have to go," he muttered, his voice barely a breath. "We need to leave now." I turned to Camille, who was still staring at the water. Her eyes were wide with terror, but something in them had changed. The fear was still there, but now there was something else. Something darker. Something that made my skin crawl. She wasn't afraid of the man anymore. "Camille, we need to go," I said, reaching for her arm. But when I touched her, she jerked away, as if my hand burned her. "No," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. "He's waiting for me, for all of us, but I'm the one who has to finish it." Before I could stop her, Camille moved closer to the water's edge, her feet sinking into the mud. I called out to her, but it was no use. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the lantern in Jordan's hand flickered wildly. For a split second, I saw something in the water, a shadow, a shape, a hand reaching up toward Camille. I lunged forward, but it was too late. A violent splash ripped through the air. The water churned as Camille disappeared beneath the surface. Her scream was drowned out by the roar of the wind, but I saw her just, for a second, her hands reaching out, her face twisted in agony as the man's form rose from the depths. It happened so fast. Jordan dropped the lantern, its light scattering as it hit the ground. The last thing I saw was Camille's bracelet, floating atop the water, the same red ribbon tied to it. "We can't stay here," Jordan said, his voice hollow. His eyes, wide with horror, stared at me. He was right. There was no reason to stay. We had seen enough. But as I turned to leave, something made me stop. A sound, a whisper in the wind, came from the lake. "Come back to the water." I froze. It wasn't just the wind. It wasn't just a memory of Mara's voice. It was real, and I knew then that none of us were ever leaving. I looked back at the lake. The man, or whatever he was still there, watching, waiting, for us. And the horror had only just begun. 3 weeks passed. Jordan stopped talking after that night. He moved back to his parents' house in Mobile and ignored every call I made. I don't blame him. There's nothing left to say. Camille never came back. They searched the lake for 2 days. Divers, dogs, even sonar. Nothing. Not even mud disturbed. It was as if the water had swallowed her clean. I kept having dreams, always the same. I stand by Stillwater Lake. It's quiet, too quiet. The trees don't move. The surface of the water is smooth like glass. Then I see Mara and Camille standing ankle deep in the lake, their eyes wide, mouths open like they're screaming, but no sound comes out. Behind them, a tall shadow rises from the depths. He never speaks. He doesn't have to. His smile is enough. I wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, the smell of wet wood thick in my nose. I tried staying in hotels, tried leaving the state. I even booked a flight to Oregon, but something kept pulling me back, like an anchor wrapped around my chest. Stillwater isn't done with me. One night, I went back, alone. I don't even remember making the decision. I just found myself driving down Highway 5, the headlights cutting through fog that hadn't been there a moment before. The closer I got, the more the world around me changed. The trees pressed in tighter. The air grew heavier. My skin felt damp, like I'd walked through a mist I couldn't see. The lake was waiting. Nothing had changed. The same crooked trees, the same smell of metal and decay, the same silence. But now, something new. At the edge of the shore, near where the old wooden chair had been, stood a figure. Not moving, not speaking. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, soaked and sagging. His coat hung like it hadn't been dry in years. His hair was long, clumped, sticking to his cheeks like wet straw. I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was looking at me, just like before. And in his hand, he held a fishing rod. The line trailed into the lake, taut and unmoving. I should have run. but I couldn't. The man turned, slowly, like every motion took effort. Then he lifted the rod and began to reel in. The crank of the reel scraped the air like metal on bone, and then I heard it. Something beneath the water, pulling, straining, coming closer. The line snapped. From the surface, a shape began to rise. Hair, fingers, eyes wide open. It was Camille, but not really. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Water spilled from her mouth in slow drips. She didn't blink. Her arms hung by her side as she floated just above the waterline. The man stepped back, letting her stand in his place, like he had only been reeling in a memory. And then she spoke, not with her voice, but with his. "You never left. You just looked away." I stumbled back, heart pounding. The ground beneath my feet felt soft, like it might give way. I turned and ran. Branches clawed at me, the air thick with fog. But the whisper followed me all the way to the road. "Come back to the water." I haven't returned since. I don't answer the phone. I don't sleep more than an hour at a time. I moved in with my sister in Birmingham. She says I look like I've seen a ghost. But I don't think ghosts are what haunt Stillwater. It's something older, something waiting, and I know it won't stop with us. I thought I could outrun it. Thought if I changed my name, moved again, deleted everything, it would forget me. I stayed with my sister in Birmingham, but even inside her bright, spotless apartment, the shadows felt too long. I kept hearing water dripping, though there were no leaks. The television turned on by itself, once. Always to static, always the same faint whisper underneath. "Come back to the water." I didn't tell her. How do you explain something like that? She already thought I was broken. Maybe I am. But the worst was the package. No return address. No markings. Just a small box left outside the door one morning, damp at the edges. Inside, a photo. 4 people, us, standing by the lake, but different. The sky was too dark. The water behind us had no reflection, and we weren't smiling. Mara's eyes were completely black. Camille's mouth was slightly open, like mid-scream. Jordan stood in the far corner of the frame, blurry, face turned away. And me, I was holding something in my hand. A fishing rod. I don't remember this photo being taken. I burned it the same night, but it didn't matter. The next morning, another one appeared, this time taped to my window from the outside. Same scene. But now, I wasn't in the picture. I packed a bag and left before sunrise. This time, I wasn't going to Stillwater. I followed a name, a note I'd found in Camille's old journal, buried in a line of nonsense scribbles. Folkmore Swamp, Clark County. I didn't know why it mattered, but something told me it was connected. The swamp wasn't on any map. I drove until the road vanished, then walked the rest. Mud up to my ankles. Air so thick, it pressed on my chest. The trees here weren't right. Their trunks were too wide, their roots too smooth, like they'd been growing over something long dead. I found a clearing just before dark, and in the middle an old shack, rotted through, but still standing. I stepped inside. It smelled like wet rope and copper. A single lantern hung from a beam, swaying slightly though there was no wind. On the floor, a circle of stones, blackened at the edges. And at the center, another chair. Wooden, familiar. On the seat, a small tackle box. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, one fish hook, rusted, bent, and a strand of long blonde hair. I stepped back. The walls seemed to breathe. Then, from behind me, a wet creak. I turned. He was there, standing in the doorway, no longer just watching. His skin was gray now, swollen, like he'd drowned long ago. His mouth too wide, teeth uneven. Water ran from his clothes as if he had just stepped out of the lake. He lifted a finger, pointed to the chair. I didn't move. The ground trembled. The shack groaned. And from every crack in the floor, Water began to seep up. "You brought them here. You cast the line." The voice wasn't his. It was Camille's, and Mara's mixed, echoing, cold. "You were the bait all along." The light went out. I don't remember leaving. Only waking up in my car the next day, mud in my shoes, the photo crumpled in my lap. But now, it's different. He doesn't wait by the water anymore. He's found the shore. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I hear splashing close. Too close like it's just outside the window or under the floorboards. I moved again, farther north this time. A friend's cabin near the Tennessee border. No signal, no noise, no water for miles. I thought distance might help, but you can't outrun something that lives in memory, or something that remembers you. I found Camille's last message while unpacking. A note stuffed into a book I hadn't opened since college. One line written in fading ink. "Don't look at your reflection after dark. It sounds like nonsense until it happens." Last night, I walked past the bathroom mirror. Just a glance. But what looked back wasn't me. Same face, same clothes. But it smiled. And I didn't. I smashed the mirror. Every shard still showed that same grin. Every piece whispered something under its breath, too soft to catch fully. But the word Stillwater came up over and over, no matter which angle I turned. I thought about going back, ending it for good. But Jordan beat me to it. He called that morning. Said he was done hiding, done being afraid of a name, a lake, a man who wasn't supposed to exist. He wanted it finished. I begged him not to go. He didn't listen. When I tried to call again, his phone was dead. I waited until sunset, then left. Stillwater looked emptier than before. No wind, no birds, the air too thick, like the moment before thunder. I parked and walked the shoreline, calling his name. Nothing answered, until I found his boots, neatly placed by the edge of the dock, and beside them, something worse. A note, written in water on rotting paper. He was here. He went below. Below what? The lake was calm, but I swear it breathed. I crouched to look closer, and saw it again, the same chair. This time beneath the surface, half buried in silt. Someone was sitting in it. Not Jordan. Someone older. Gray skin, rotted shirt, hair like wet moss. And those eyes, they opened. I fell back, gasping. The image vanished, but the water rippled. Something was coming up. I ran. Didn't stop until I reached the tree line. But in the distance, I heard footsteps wet, uneven, slow, not splashing, dragging. I didn't wait to see. Back at the cabin, I locked every door, every window. I don't care about logic anymore. He's not a ghost. He's not a man. He's something in between. And he doesn't want to haunt. He wants to be remembered. Because every time someone tells the story, he gets closer. Every time we say the name Stillwater, he steps further from the lake. So this is the last time I'll speak it. If I disappear next, don't come looking. The water doesn't give back what it takes, and he's no longer alone in it.